They came at 3 a.m., shadows cloaked in the silence of a sleeping neighborhood, their boots barely whispering on the pavement. They weren't there to check mailboxes or measure lawn heights. They wore vests stamped with bold letters, HOA enforcement, and carried clipboards that gleamed under the faint glow of a street lamp. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe if you want more Karen and HOA stories. Please listen to the whole story and give me a comment about your feelings. But their eyes, sharp and restless, betrayed the lie. This wasn't about rules. This was about control, about breaking into a home and shattering the safety of those inside. They picked the wrong house. Inside was John Harper, a Navy SEAL veteran who'd seen wars most could only imagine, a man who didn't flinch when evil knocked. His son, 16-year-old Caleb, slept down the hall, unaware that the world was about to change. In 30 seconds, a single choice would turn a quiet night into a battle for survival, exposing a truth so dark it would haunt the town for years. The Harper family lived in a tidy suburb just outside Dallas, Texas, where picket fences lined the streets and kids rode bikes until the streetlights flickered on. Their house, a modest two-story with a neatly trimmed lawn, blended into the cul-de-sac like any other. Neighbors waved, dogs barked, and life felt predictable. But John never trusted the calm. 20 years in the SEALs had taught him that peace was fragile, a thin veil over chaos. He didn't talk about the missions, the scars, or the nights he'd stared death down. To Caleb, he was just Dad, the guy who fixed the sprinkler system and grilled steaks on Sundays. But John's habits told a different story. He locked every door twice, kept a flashlight by his bed, and always sat where he could see the exits. Caleb teased him sometimes, laughing, "Dad, we're in Texas, not a combat zone." John would just nod, his eyes steady, and say, "Trouble doesn't send a warning." On that March night, the air was warm, the neighborhood wrapped in stillness. The sprinklers had hummed at 2 a.m., right on schedule. Caleb had fallen asleep with his phone glowing, a half-watched video still playing. John lay in bed, not fully asleep, his senses tuned to the quiet. At 3:02 a.m., he heard it, a faint scrape, like metal on metal, followed by low voices outside. Not loud, not panicked, but deliberate, like they'd done this before. He sat up, heart steady, mind already mapping the house. He didn't wake his wife, Sarah, or Caleb. He moved silently, bare feet on the hardwood, past the family photos lining the hall. The voices grew clearer near the front door. HOA compliance check. Open up now. One called firm and official, the kind of voice that demanded obedience. John froze, not out of fear, but calculation. HOA didn't show up at 3 a.m. He knew the local board, nosy, sure, but not this bold. Something was wrong. He slipped into the study, where a locked safe held more than paperwork. Inside was a Glock 19, cold and familiar, a tool he hadn't touched in years but still checked monthly. He grabbed it, movements smooth like muscle memory kicking in. The pounding on the door started, heavy and insistent. "Open the door or we're coming in," the voice shouted. Caleb stirred in his room, eyes blinking open, heart racing as the noise cut through his sleep. He pulled out his earbuds, confused, thinking it was a dream. Then he heard it again. Thuds, loud and real. He stumbled out of bed, barefoot, and peeked into the hall. John was already there, gun in hand, his face calm but sharp, like a blade. "Stay back," John whispered, his voice low but firm. Caleb nodded, too scared to argue, and ducked behind the wall. Outside, two figures stood on the porch, their vests catching the glow of the motion light. One held a clipboard, the other a flashlight, but their hands twitched, restless, like they were waiting for something. John peered through the peephole, noting the details. The vests were clean, too clean, no local HOA logo, just generic lettering. The badges looked real but hung loosely, like props. He didn't answer the door. He waited, listening. "They're not opening." "Force it," one muttered, barely audible. John's grip tightened. He backed up, positioning himself in the living room, out of sight but ready. Caleb watched from the hall, his breath shallow, not understanding why his dad looked so calm. The lock clicked, then splintered. The door swung open, and the first man stepped inside, his flashlight sweeping the room. He wore a confident smirk, expecting fear, compliance, maybe an empty house. He didn't expect John. "Drop it!" John barked, gun raised, voice like thunder. The man froze, flashlight trembling in his hand. His partner, still outside, cursed and bolted, shoes crunching on the gravel. The man inside reached for something, maybe a weapon, maybe not. John didn't wait to find out. A single shot rang out, sharp and final, echoing through the house. The man collapsed, blood pooling on the hardwood. Caleb gasped, his knees buckling, as the world he knew shattered in that sound. John didn't flinch. He stepped forward, gun still trained on the man, checking for movement. "Caleb, call 911, he said, voice steady, like he was asking for a glass of water. Caleb fumbled for his phone, hands shaking, as the porch light flickered outside. The second man was gone, vanished into the night, but John wasn't chasing. He was thinking about angles, about safety, about the boy trembling behind him. The house felt different now, like the walls had seen something they couldn't unsee. Sirens wailed in the distance, red and blue lights flashing closer. John lowered the gun, but his eyes never left the door. He'd stopped the threat, but he knew this wasn't over. The truth about those men, their vests, their plan, it was buried deeper than a broken lock. And he'd find it no matter what it took. The police lights painted the cul-de-sac red and blue, bouncing off the neighbors' windows as sirens faded into the night. John Harper stood in his driveway, hands raised, Glock on the kitchen counter where he'd left it. Officers swarmed the house, shouting orders. "Hands up, step back, don't move." Caleb watched from the doorway, his phone still in hand. 911 call ended. His heart pounded, not just from the shot, but from seeing his dad treated like a criminal. "I'm the homeowner," John said, voice calm but firm. "Check the guy outside. He's not HOA. An officer cuffed him anyway, protocol overriding reason." Caleb wanted to yell, but John's eyes met his, steady, saying stay quiet. The man John shot lay on the porch, groaning, blood staining his fake vest. The second guy was long gone, his flashlight abandoned in the grass. Neighbors peeked through blinds, their faces pale in the flickering light. Sarah, Caleb's mom, rushed downstairs, her robe half-tied, eyes wide. "John, what's happening?" she whispered, but an officer waved her back. The scene felt like a movie, but the fear in Caleb's chest was real. He couldn't shake the sound of that gunshot, or the way his dad moved, like he'd done this before. The police searched the yard and found a black van parked 2 houses down, hidden behind a hedge. Inside was a duffel bag, zip ties, duct tape, fake HOA forms, and a list of addresses, their house at the top. Caleb overheard an officer mutter, "This wasn't random." His stomach twisted. They'd been targeted, but why? John, still cuffed, answered questions with short, precise words. 2 men claimed HOA forced entry. "I acted to protect my family." The officer nodded but kept writing. Then came the first twist. Another cop ran up, holding a badge from the van. "This is fake, but it's good. Too good," he said. "These guys have done this before." Caleb's mind raced. Fake badges? A list? This wasn't just a robbery. John's jaw tightened, like he'd expected trouble but not this deep. The wounded man, now in an ambulance, stayed silent, but his phone, left in the van, buzzed with a new message. "Did you get in? Report now." The officer bagged it, face grim. "We're tracing this," he said. Caleb caught his dad's eye, but John just nodded, like he was piecing it together too. Then came another twist. Sarah whispered to Caleb, "Your dad got a weird letter last week. Something about a fine for our fence." "I thought it was junk." Caleb froze. A fine? They'd never heard from the real HOA about that. Was it connected? He wanted to tell the police, but John was being led to a cruiser for more questions. "Dad," Caleb called, voice cracking. John turned, his face unreadable. "Stay with your mom. Don't talk yet." The words felt heavy, like a warning. As the police cleared the scene, a detective arrived, older with tired eyes. He uncuffed John after a quick talk with the team. "You're clear for now, Mr. Harper," he said. "But we need you at the station tomorrow. This is bigger than one night." John nodded, rubbing his wrists, but his eyes scanned the street, like he was looking for the second man, or something worse. Back inside, the house felt wrong. The broken door hung open, letting in the cool night air. Caleb sat on the couch, staring at the bloodstain on the floor. Sarah hugged him, her hands shaking. "Why us?" she kept saying. John didn't answer. He checked the windows, the back door, every corner, like he was securing a base. Caleb watched, noticing how his dad's hands never shook, how his steps were measured. "Dad, who were they?" Caleb asked, voice small. John paused, then said, "Not just thieves. They had a plan." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning Caleb didn't yet grasp. The police left, promising updates, but the quiet that followed was worse. Caleb couldn't sleep, replaying the night, the voices, the shot, the van. He remembered something else, a third twist. A week ago, he'd seen a strange guy in a car across the street, watching their house. He'd told himself it was nothing, but now? He ran to John, who was cleaning the Glock in the kitchen. "Dad, I saw someone last week. A guy, just sitting there." John stopped, eyes narrowing. "What did he look like?" Caleb described him, baseball cap, sunglasses, no plates on the car. John's face changed, not scared, but focused, like a puzzle piece had clicked. "Tell no one," he said. "Not even the cops." "Not yet." Caleb nodded, but fear crawled up his spine. Who was his dad protecting them from? And why did it feel like the real danger was still out there, waiting? Morning came, but the sun didn't bring calm. The Harper house stood quiet, the broken door now boarded up, a ugly reminder of the night before. John Harper sat at the kitchen table, coffee cold in his mug, staring at a crumpled letter Sarah had dug out from a drawer. It was the fake HOA fine she'd mentioned, demanding $500 for a fence violation. The paper looked real, official letterhead, a signature from someone named Richard Holt, HOA president. But John knew the local HOA head was a woman, Mrs. Carter. "This is a setup," he said, voice low, like he was talking to himself. Caleb, sitting across from him, felt a chill. "A setup for what, Dad?" John didn't answer, just folded the letter and slipped it into his pocket. Sarah was upstairs, on the phone with her sister, her voice shaky. Caleb wanted to ask more, but John's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You stopped nothing. Watch your back." John's face didn't change, but his eyes hardened. He deleted the message and stood. "Stay inside today," he told Caleb. "No school." Caleb nodded, too scared to argue. The police called, asking John to come to the station. He left without a word, but Caleb noticed he took the Glock, tucked under his jacket. Alone, Caleb paced the living room, replaying the night, the fake vests, the van, the man he'd seen watching. Then he heard a noise outside, a faint rustle by the garage. Heart racing, he peeked through the blinds. A shadow moved, quick and low, near the trash cans. Was it the second guy? Someone else? He grabbed a baseball bat, hands sweaty, but the shadow was gone. The phone rang, making him jump. It was Mrs. Carter, the real HOA president. "Caleb, I heard what happened. We never sent anyone to your house," she said, voice tight. "But something's off. 2 weeks ago, someone stole our member list. Names, addresses, everything." Caleb's mouth went dry. A stolen list? That's why their house was targeted. He hung up, mind spinning. When John got back, his face was grim. "The guy I shot, he's awake," he said. "Name's Kyle Mason. No record, but the cops found a burner phone on him. It links to a bigger crew." Caleb blurted out Mrs. Carter's call. John's eyes narrowed. "They're not just robbing houses," he said. "They're hunting specific people." He didn't explain, but Caleb saw it. A flash of fear in his dad's eyes, something he'd never seen before. Then came another twist. John pulled out a small key from his pocket and opened a locked drawer in his desk. Inside was a photo, old and creased, of John in uniform with 3 other men. "These guys," John said, voice heavy. "One's dead. One's missing. I thought I left that life behind." Caleb stared, confused. "What's that got to do with this?" John looked at him, serious. "The missing guy? He was in Dallas last month. I think he's tied to this." Caleb's heart sank. His dad's past was catching up, and they were in the crosshairs. The afternoon sun hung low, casting long shadows across the Harper's cul-de-sac, but the house felt like it was holding its breath. John Harper stood in the garage, staring at the old photo from his SEAL days, his thumb tracing the face of the missing man, Ethan Reed. Caleb hovered nearby, questions burning, but John's silence kept him quiet. "Go check on your mom," John said, voice tight. Caleb nodded and headed inside, but not before spotting a strange mark on the garage floor. A smudge of red paint, fresh, like someone had been there. His stomach dropped. Had someone sneaked in after the police left? He didn't tell John, not yet, afraid it was nothing. Inside, Sarah was cleaning the kitchen, her hands moving fast, like she could scrub away the fear. "Caleb, you okay?" she asked, eyes red. He mumbled a yes, but his mind was on the paint. Then the doorbell rang, sharp and sudden. Sarah flinched. Caleb peeked out the window and saw a woman in a suit, holding a clipboard. "HOA business," she called through the door. Caleb's heart raced. Another fake? He grabbed his phone to call John, but the woman slipped a card under the door. It read, "Lisa Grant, Dallas County Investigator." Caleb opened the door, cautious. "Your dad home?" Lisa asked, her voice calm but urgent. Caleb shook his head. She frowned. "Tell him to call me. The guy you shot, Kyle Mason? He's talking and it's bad." Caleb's throat tightened. "What did he say?" Lisa glanced around, like she was checking for watchers. "This wasn't just a robbery. They were after something in your house." Before Caleb could ask more, John pulled into the driveway, his truck screeching. He stepped out, eyes locked on Lisa. "Who are you?" he demanded. She showed her card, but John didn't relax. "Talk inside," he said, leading her in. In the living room, Lisa dropped a bomb. "Kyle says they were hired. Someone wanted a box from your house. Something from your SEAL days." John's face went still, but Caleb saw his hand twitch. "What box?" Caleb asked, confused. John didn't answer, but Lisa did. Kyle didn't know much, but he said the guy who hired them is connected to Ethan Reed, your old teammate. Caleb's jaw dropped. Ethan, the missing guy from the photo, was behind this? John stayed quiet, but his eyes burned. Then came another twist. Lisa pulled out a grainy photo from a gas station camera, dated 2 days ago. It showed Ethan Reed, alive, buying a pack of cigarettes. "He's in Dallas," she said. "And he's not alone." John took the photo, his voice low. "Who's with him?" Lisa hesitated. "We don't know yet, but Kyle mentioned a name, Holt, like the signature on that fake fine letter." Caleb's mind spun. Richard Holt, the name on the letter, was tied to Ethan? Was Holt real or another fake? Before John could respond, the lights flickered, then went out. Sarah gasped. John grabbed his Glock from the counter, motioning for silence. A faint creak came from the back door. Someone was trying to get in again. Caleb's heart pounded as John moved toward the sound. Gun ready, whispering, "Stay here." But Caleb couldn't. He followed, bat in hand, as the creak turned into a loud snap. Darkness swallowed the Harper house as the power cut left only the faint glow of Caleb's phone. John Harper moved toward the back door, Glock steady, his shadow sharp against the wall. Caleb gripped his bat, heart hammering, ignoring his dad's order to stay back. The snap at the door became a low scrape, like someone prying it open. Sarah whispered, "John, be careful." Her voice barely audible. Lisa, the investigator, pulled a small flashlight from her pocket, her face tense. "I'm with you," she told John, but he shook his head. "Stay with them," he said, nodding toward Sarah and Caleb. The scrape stopped, replaced by silence. Too heavy, like the air before a storm. John reached the door, listened, then yanked it open. Nothing. The backyard was empty, the motion light dead. But there, on the step, was a folded note, pinned under a rock. John grabbed it, his eyes scanning the words. "You can't hide it forever. Give us the box." Caleb, peering over his shoulder, felt ice in his veins. The box again? What was it? John stuffed the note in his pocket, his jaw tight. "Inside now," he ordered. Back in the living room, the lights flickered on, weak at first, then steady. Lisa's flashlight clicked off. "That wasn't random," she said. "Someone's playing games." John didn't respond, but Caleb saw his hand hover near the Glock. Then came a twist, a loud knock at the front door. Everyone froze. Lisa moved to the window, peeking out. "It's a cop," she said, but her voice had an edge. John checked the peephole, his body tense. The officer outside wore a uniform, badge gleaming, but John didn't open the door. "Name and badge number," he called. The man hesitated, then said, "Officer Daniels, 4721. Lisa frowned, pulling out her phone. "I know every cop in this precinct. No Daniels." Caleb's stomach dropped. Another fake? John stepped back, gun raised. "Get lost," he shouted. The officer banged once more, then ran, his boots echoing down the street. Caleb's mind spun. First fake HOA, now fake cops? Lisa dialed her contact at the station, her voice sharp. "Check a badge, 4721. Now." Minutes later, she hung up, face pale. No such officer. "But the precinct got a call an hour ago, reporting a break-in at your address, except it came from a burner phone." John's eyes darkened. "They're setting us up," he said. Caleb couldn't stay quiet. "Dad, what's in that box?" John looked at him, then at Sarah, who nodded, like she'd been waiting for this. He sighed. "It's from my last mission. Intel, names, locations. I was supposed to destroy it, but Ethan Reed, he wanted it sold. I hid it instead." Caleb's jaw dropped. His dad had a secret that dangerous? Another twist hit. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text. She read it, then showed John. It was a photo of their house, taken from across the street, timestamped 10 minutes ago. "They're watching us," she said. John grabbed his keys. "We're not staying here." But as they moved to the door, a car engine roared outside, headlights flashing through the blinds, then speeding away. Caleb's heart raced. Were they too late? The Harper family piled into John's truck, the engine roaring to life as headlights cut through the dark cul-de-sac. Caleb clutched his bat, sitting beside Sarah, who kept glancing back at their house. Lisa, in the front, checked her phone, her face grim. "No signal," she said, shaking her head. John's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "They're jamming us," he muttered, eyes scanning the rearview mirror. Caleb's heart pounded. Jamming? Like in a war? The street was quiet, too quiet, until a black SUV screeched around the corner, tailing them. John floored it, tires squealing. "Hold on," he said, voice steady but sharp. Caleb twisted in his seat, watching the SUV's lights grow closer. Sarah grabbed his hand, her grip tight. "John, who are they?" she asked, voice shaking. He didn't answer, just swerved into a side street, the SUV still behind. Then came a twist. Lisa pulled a gun from her jacket, small but real. Caleb's eyes widened. "You're not just an investigator," he blurted. Lisa didn't look at him. "Ex-FBI," she said. "I've been tracking Ethan Reed for months." John shot her a glance. "And you didn't tell me?" Lisa's jaw tightened. "I wasn't sure you weren't involved." Caleb's mind reeled. His dad, involved with Ethan? Before he could ask, the SUV rammed their bumper, jolting them forward. Sarah screamed. John veered into an empty lot, kicking up dust, then slammed the brakes. "Everyone down," he shouted. The SUV stopped, doors flying open. Two men jumped out, faces masked, one holding a crowbar, the other a gun. John was out of the truck in a flash, Glock raised. "Drop it," he barked. The armed man laughed, voice muffled. You're out of moves, Harper. Give us the box. Caleb's breath caught. They knew his dad's name. Lisa leaned close to Caleb, whispering, Stay low. Your dad's got this. But then another twist hit. A second car roared into the lot, a beat-up sedan. The driver stepped out, unmasked, and Caleb gasped. It was Mrs. Carter, the HOA president, holding a shotgun. Back off! She yelled at the masked men. John froze, confused. Ellen, what the hell? Mrs. Carter's eyes were wild. They came to my house too, John. Threatened my kids. I'm done hiding. The masked men hesitated, caught off guard. John used the moment, firing a warning shot into the dirt. The man with the crowbar bolted, but the gunman fired back, the bullet grazing Lisa's arm. She cursed, dropping her gun. Caleb, heart racing, grabbed it, hands shaking. Don't! Sarah hissed, but he aimed, not shooting, just holding it. John tackled the gunman, pinning him down, while Mrs. Carter kept her shotgun on the sedan. The second man escaped, tires screeching. Lisa, bleeding, tied the gunman's hands with her belt. He'll talk, she said, wincing. John stood, breathing hard, then looked at Caleb, still holding the gun. Put it down, son, he said, soft but firm. Caleb obeyed, trembling. Mrs. Carter lowered her shotgun, her voice shaky. John, they're after more than your box. They've got plans, big ones. Caleb's stomach twisted. Plans? What was bigger than this? Dust settled in the empty lot, the air thick with tension as John Harper tied the gunman's wrists with zip ties from Lisa's bag. Caleb stood frozen, the weight of the gun he'd held still heavy in his hands. Sarah hugged him tight, her face pale. Mrs. Carter, shotgun lowered, kept watch on the dark street, her hands shaking. Lisa, blood seeping through her sleeve, pressed her arm and nodded at John. We need to move, she said. This guy's not the boss. The gunman, mask off, was young, barely 20, with scared eyes. I don't know nothing, he muttered. John leaned close, voice low. Who's Holt? The guy flinched, like the name burned. He'll kill me, he whispered. Caleb's heart raced. Holt again? Then a twist hit. Lisa's phone buzzed. Signal back. A message from her precinct contact. Holt's an alias. Real name's Victor Crane. Ex-CIA. Linked to Ethan Reed. John's face darkened. Crane, he said like he knew the name. Caleb caught his dad's eye. You know him? John hesitated, then nodded. He trained with us. Left after a bad op, thought he was dead. Caleb's mind spun. A CIA guy running this? Before anyone could speak, headlights flashed. A police cruiser pulled up, lights off. An officer stepped out, but Lisa tensed. That's not my contact, she whispered. John raised his Glock slow. Stay back, he called. The officer smiled, too calm. Easy, Harper. Just here to help. But his hand hovered near his belt, and Caleb saw it. A fake badge, just like the first night. Another twist. Mrs. Carter swung her shotgun up. He's one of them, she shouted. The officer drew, but John was faster, firing a shot that hit his leg. The man collapsed, cursing. Lisa ran to him, kicking his gun away. Who sent you? She demanded. He laughed, blood on his teeth. You're all dead. Crane's got eyes everywhere. Sarah gasped, pulling Caleb closer. John scanned the lot like he felt those eyes now. Then came another twist. A radio crackled in the fake cop's car. A voice, cold and clear. Harper, you can't run. The box or your family. Caleb's knees buckled. They knew his dad's name, their house, everything. John grabbed the radio, crushing it under his boot. We're not running, he said, voice hard. Lisa looked at him, arm bleeding. Crane's not just after intel. He's selling it. Names, secrets, to the highest bidder. Caleb's stomach dropped. His dad's box held that kind of power? Mrs. Carter spoke, voice low. My neighbor got a fine letter too, same as yours. They're hitting the whole street. John nodded, pieces clicking. They're cleaning house, tying up loose ends. He turned to Caleb. Get in the truck. We're ending this. As they moved, a distant explosion echoed. A fireball lit up the sky, blocks away. Caleb froze. That's our street, Sarah whispered, horrified. John's eyes narrowed. Cranes covering his tracks. Caleb's heart pounded. Was their home gone? Were they next? The truck sped toward the glow of flames, the night sky orange where the Harper Street burned. John Harper gripped the wheel, his face a mask of focus. Caleb sat in the back, heart racing, Sarah's hand tight on his. Lisa, arm bandaged with Sarah's scarf, checked her gun, her voice steady. Cranes erasing evidence, she said. Mrs. Carter, shotgun across her lap, nodded. He's scared you're close, John. Caleb's mind churned. Crane, Ethan, the box. What had his dad walked into? They reached the cul-de-sac, where fire trucks battled ablaze at a neighbor's house. Their own home stood, but the garage door was open. Red paint smeared across it like a warning. John stopped the truck, scanning the chaos. Stay here, he told Caleb and Sarah, then motioned to Lisa and Mrs. Carter. We check inside. Caleb protested. Dad, I'm coming. John's eyes softened. You're brave, son, but I need you safe. Caleb nodded, throat tight. Then a twist hit. A man stumbled from the shadows, blood on his face. It was Ethan Reed, John's old teammate, limping, eyes wild. John, help me, he gasped. John froze, gun raised. You're with Crane, he said, voice cold. Ethan shook his head. He double-crossed me. He's got the box. Caleb's jaw dropped. Ethan wasn't the mastermind? Lisa stepped forward, gun trained. Where's Crane? Ethan coughed, pointing to the Harper's house. Basement. He's got men. John didn't hesitate, leading Lisa and Mrs. Carter inside, leaving Ethan slumped against a tree. Caleb watched, torn, then saw Ethan pull a phone, typing fast. Another twist. He was lying. Caleb whispered to Sarah. He's texting someone. Sarah's eyes widened. We have to warn your dad. They crept toward the house, Caleb's bat in hand, fear choking him. Inside, John's team moved quietly, basement door ajar. A faint hum came from below. Generators, lights. John signaled, descending. Then a voice boomed. Harper, you're late. Victor Crane stood in the basement, flanked by two armed men, a metal box on a table. John's box. Crane smirked. Your intel's worth millions. Hand it over or your family's done. Lisa fired, grazing Crane's shoulder, but his men shot back, bullets sparking. Mrs. Carter ducked, blasting her shotgun, hitting one man. John tackled the other, fists flying. Crane grabbed the box, running for a back exit. John chased, shouting, Crane! Upstairs, Caleb and Sarah burst in, hearing shots. Caleb saw Ethan slip through the front door, gun in hand. He's here, Caleb yelled, swinging his bat, hitting Ethan's arm. Ethan dropped, cursing. Sarah grabbed his gun, trembling. John emerged, dragging Crane, box in hand. It's over, he said, but Crane laughed. You think I'm alone? Sirens wailed, real cops this time. Lisa cuffed Crane, her arm bleeding but steady. Ethan caught, spilled everything. Crane's network, fake HOAs targeted homes. The box held codes to a black market deal enough to ruin lives. Weeks later, the Harpers rebuilt, scars fading. Caleb saw his dad differently. Not just a hero, but a man carrying heavy choices. The neighborhood installed cameras, trust broken but vigilance gained. John taught Caleb to shoot not for war, but for responsibility. The lesson was clear. Safety isn't given. It's guarded, sometimes at a cost, but always worth it.